everyone, I hope you're really well. Welcome, or indeed welcome back to the channel. If you are new, don't forget to hit subscribe because today I'm reviewing a brand new concealer from NARS. So, a little while ago I had an email from Space NK kind of tempting me into buying some stuff, which of course just did what it intended to do and just suckered me right in. And I thought, ooh, I wonder if there's anything new in beauty, and there actually was. And it was a new concealer from NARS, which I feel like is a very exciting thing indeed, because I didn't even know that they were coming out with one. I already own their Radiant Creamy Concealer, so I was very excited at the prospect of trying another concealer from NARS, because I do really like the Radiant Creamy Concealer. So of course I picked one up, and unlike my foundation test videos, which are generally first impression videos, and then I'll do a follow-up just to let you know how I've got on, with concealers and most other products that I review, I really like to test them out quite a lot first before I arrive to my final conclusion. I will be making some comparisons to other concealers that I own, but before I get too ahead of myself in terms of this review, I just want to quickly show you the NARS website, just in case if you've never heard of this concealer before, it will just give you a little bit more information from NARS themselves. So as you can see, it's £23 and it doesn't actually say how much product you get here, but you do actually get 6.2 grams of product, and it comes in what looks to be a really decent shade range. The shade that I chose was one up from the bottom, so that's vanilla, and vanilla is described as being with a tiny cast of pink for the fair complexion. So in terms of what they're saying about this concealer, it's supposed to give you a natural look but with high coverage, and it's going to give you a soft focus effect as well, so it's going to blur, conceal and smooth imperfections with complete comfort. It's supposed to be completely natural looking, it's oil free, long wearing, non-drying and 16 shades for all skin tones. Although it's high coverage, it will be weightless, and the advanced powders with a unique structure lay flat, staying in place without settling into fine lines and pores. It will also give you long-term benefits with use as well, with softer, smoother skin. Collagen boosting peptides and hyaluronic acid reduce the appearance of wrinkles and pores by helping plump the look of skin. Antioxidant Daily Defense delivers a protective cocktail of vitamins A, C and E. So not only are they promising very natural, high performance coverage, but it's actually going to improve your skin over time as well. So I am actually wearing this concealer today, so I will just take my glasses off and hope that I can still see things okay. I am wearing it under my eyes, and I've covered a blemish with it on my cheek and on my chin as well, but I am wearing a fairly good coverage foundation as well today. But rest assured, I have taken lots of pictures. There are lots of cutaways coming up of me applying the concealer and flash tests and all that kind of stuff as well as some swatches too. I guess the most obvious place to start is to draw a direct comparison to the Radiant Creamy Concealer, because I do have both. Both of them are in the same shade, which is light 2 or vanilla. There is a slight shade difference though. It's not massively different that I think it's going to cause too much of a problem, but I just think it's something worth mentioning. I've seen other people say that they've not had an issue with it, and I have seen swatches of shades other than what I've got here that do look quite similar, so it could just be an issue within certain shades. So if this is one that you're interested in, it's definitely worth hunting out some swatches, or if you can actually get to play with it, then swatch it on your own skin. In terms of packaging, obviously there's a massive difference. This is your typical doe foot applicator concealer, whereas this, and I know not everyone is going to be a fan of this, but it is in a little pot. Now, I actually really like that it's in a little pot, and there's one massive reason for this. Just going back to the Radiant Creamy Concealer for a second, when I first got this, I really loved it, but I thought that it had run out really quickly, and I was really upset because I do really enjoy using this concealer. But what I learnt I had to do was, when I opened it, I had to really wiggle it around to try and get product out, and then suddenly I had lots more product left. But in terms of how much product you're getting in each of these, it's really similar. There's 0.22 ounces in this one and 0.21 ounces in that one, which equates to 6 ml in this one and 6.2 grams in that one. But the main reason why I love the fact that it's in a pot is not only is it really super easy to use and just dip your finger straight in, which I know not everyone is going to be a fan of doing that, but you can of course use a concealer brush, is you stand a much better chance of being able to scrape out every last bit of product, which to me and my trying to get the best value for money out of things, it just makes me all kinds of happy. So straight away, really like the packaging in that respect. This product is actually intended to be applied with your fingers. It does actually say that on the NARS website, and I must admit that applying it with fingers works so much better than a brush. Brushes work better for maybe spot concealing if you want to be really precise, but then blending it out with your fingers. The under eye area definitely works better with fingers, and you'll see that in the cutaway that I have filmed. One thing you do have to be cautious of with this concealer is it does dry down fairly matte. As the name would suggest, it applies like an absolute creamy dream, which is another reason why I like applying it with fingers, because I think the warmth of your fingers just helps the product really melt into your skin. So whether that's covering a blemish or doing my under eye area or wherever it is that I'm applying it, it just seems to go on beautifully with fingers. I have tried using a sponge and it is okay and it does help to blend it, but I just find that fingers are so quick, easy and convenient. It just seems to make sense to use your fingers, unless of course you're really adverse to the idea of doing that and you'd prefer to use brushes. It's absolutely fine, but I just find that blending it out with a finger just seems to give a much better natural level of coverage. I've done some swatches on the back of my hand, and on this side we've got the Creamy Matte Concealer. In the middle is Radiant Creamy Concealer, and then on the end is Tarte's Shape Tape. You might not be able to see it in this light, but like I've said, I've done lots of cutaways for you to be able to see. The Radiant Creamy Concealer is definitely more of a radiant finish. It does obviously dry down fairly matte, kind of velvety, but it does still have kind of a luminescent quality, which makes it quite nice to use for the under eye area. The Creamy Matte Concealer does definitely dry quite flat and matte, so if that's not really going to be your thing, then you're not really going to like this concealer. However, having said that, depending on how you prepare your skin and what your skin type is, if you load your skin up with a lot of moisture and hydration first, it does actually look a bit more forgiving, and it does give a really nice natural finish to the skin, so it doesn't completely dry down and become very flat. It just depends on how you've prepared your skin. Just touching each of these swatches now, both the Tarte Shape Tape and the Radiant Creamy Concealer still feel quite tacky, even though this has been sat on my hand for probably a good half an hour or so. So they've definitely dried down, but there is a bit of a tackiness to it. The Soft Matte Concealer, and I think I've probably called this a lot of different things whilst I've been talking because all these different names. The Soft Matte Concealer feels really silky smooth. It's noticeably less sticky and tacky. So in terms of their mission of creating a concealer that just gives a very natural finish, that feels very comfortable, I definitely think they achieved it with this one. Unfortunately for me, it does tend to crease in the under eye area, and I have done lots of experimentation with using different eye creams, oils, etc., and it does still crease. But provided I try and avoid the areas where I am most wrinkly and I'm literally just concentrating it on the small proportion of my eye area that is quite dark, it actually does sit quite nicely. So I tend to just use a little tiny dab and blend it in and just try and stick to this area so it doesn't really have a chance to go anywhere else. I remember a long time ago watching a video of Lisa Eldridge, and if you don't know who Lisa Eldridge is or you've not seen her YouTube channel, I strongly recommend that you check her channel out because she is an amazing makeup artist and she gives so many great tips. And one thing I remember from one of her videos about how to conceal dark circles is you literally just cover the area that's dark. And it was something that I knew about and I forgot. And then I rewatched that video quite recently and I thought, oh yes, why don't I do that? And ever since I've done that, I literally look in the mirror and just literally put the tiniest bit of concealer on the area where I feel like I am dark. The results are so much better and I don't suffer with quite so much creasing and it doesn't look quite so unnatural. I think it gives me a much more natural level of coverage. So thank you very much to Lisa Eldridge for that tip, which I am now passing on to you guys because it may seem like a really obvious tip, but so many people don't do it. So many people that you see on Instagram, YouTube, wherever, they do that massive concealer thing under the eyes, and for me that just does not work. It ends up really creasy, really cakey. So literally just concentrating a tiny bit, particularly with this soft matte concealer because it is so blendable and it just melts into the skin. It just makes things look so much better than they did before. I do have a healing spot on my cheek which does seem to be taking a long time to disappear. I had the blemish quite some time ago, but obviously it was quite a bad one because it's left quite a bad scar. So I do try and cover it up on a daily basis, but I still find with this concealer that maybe halfway through the day it has started to wear off a little bit patchily. So it's not the longest wearing concealer in the world, but it does give a really beautiful natural finish. So if it was just a case of me popping it in a makeup bag and just really lightly touching up throughout the day, I actually don't think I mind having to do that because I think it is expecting quite a lot that your makeup will last all day long and look completely bulletproof amazing. I don't mind touching up provided the product in the first place is a good product and it doesn't start crumbling or caking and looking horrible, because at the end of the day my day-to-day makeup is natural. I don't want anything that's going to start looking cakey and obvious and horrible, and if it just means doing a quick dab to touch up, I really don't mind doing that. I also like the fact that it's got some added benefits to this concealer as well. So you've got the peptides, hyaluronic acid and vitamins A, C and E. I am not sure whether I've noticed that much of a difference in the time that I've been using it to say whether it has had any long-term benefits, but I do still have quite a lot of product to go, so we shall have to see on that one, but it does at least have the potential there, and I like the fact that they have put those extra things into the product too. It can also be used as an eyeshadow base, which does work pretty well because it does dry down to this nice soft kind of matte finish, but admittedly I do absolutely love my Put a Lid on It from the Balm, so that's the one that I tend to reach for on a daily basis. But it does work quite nicely as an eyeshadow primer, provided you don't use too much, because I think this is where you can run into issues with perhaps it creasing. A little bit goes a really long way, so if needs be, just use a small amount and just build it up if you feel like you need a little bit more. And the same can be said for when you're using it for a concealer as well. Just start with a really light hand and just dab and blend it in, and then just keep adding more as and when you feel like you need it. All in all, I definitely recommend this concealer. I think it's a lovely concealer. It's very easy to apply, which really appeals to me because I don't like products that are a struggle to try and apply in the morning. I just like to be able to pop something on my face really quickly, and this definitely applies like an absolute dream. I also love the fact that it's going to last a really long time, because I have been using this for probably a few months now, I think, and I've not really put much of a dent in it, so I'm excited to see how long this will last. It gives a really beautiful natural finish, which really appeals to me and how I personally like to wear my makeup. But at the same time, it does really have good coverage levels too, so don't be put off by the fact that I'm saying it's natural, because it does actually give pretty good coverage for something that ends up looking really quite natural on the skin. In terms of comparing it back to the Radiant Creamy Concealer again, I don't think I would bother to pick this one up again, just purely because this does a very similar job. It is a little bit less radiant, but I'm sure with the right primer or illuminating product underneath this, you could get some of that luminescence back if that's the look that you really wanted to get. But the main selling points for me in terms of this concealer is the fact that it's in a pot, so it's really easy to use every single last bit of it and really get good value for money, because as much as doe foot applicators can be quite convenient, you'll never get all of the product out, which is so frustrating. And it's just super quick, convenient and easy to apply. So in terms of what I look for in makeup, it ticks so many boxes. Sure, it's not 100% perfect. There are times where maybe I've gone a little bit too far under my eyes with it and it has started to crease. And like I said, it doesn't last the full day on me. But in terms of doing touch-ups, I really don't mind doing that because I'd much rather have a really good looking product for say maybe 4 or 5 hours than rather maybe a product that will last the whole day but end up looking a bit cakey and crumbly because it is a very long wearing product. I think when it comes to the different concealer brands that I've tried, NARS is definitely my favourite. I do really like the Radiant Creamy Concealer, but this one has definitely overtaken that one for me for all of the different reasons that I've mentioned already. So I'm really happy to have found this concealer because I think it's going to be with me for quite some time. Right, that is it for today's video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, I would really appreciate a thumbs up down below because it does really help support my channel. And if you are new and would like to subscribe to see more content like this from me in the future, I will pop a button just here so you can click it and get notified of new content as and when it gets uploaded. And if you've not seen my last video, I will pop a link to that one just up here so you can click it and check that one out too. Anyway, I hope you're all really well and I will see you again soon. Bye!